Let's look at limits of trigonometric functions at infinity. Here you can see the graphs of the sine, cosine, and tangent functions. First, we'll consider the sine function. The sine function oscillates between -1 and 1. Since it oscillates, it never converges on a number. Thus, the limit of sine x as x approaches infinity does not exist. Similarly, the cosine function also oscillates between -1 and 1. So the limit of cosine x as x approaches infinity does not exist. Finally, consider the tangent function. Notice from the graph of the tangent function, it follows the same pattern over and over again. Since it doesn't converge on any particular value, it does not have a limit. Therefore, the limit of tangent x as x approaches infinity does not exist. Let's try and evaluate some infinite limits. First, we want to find the limit of sine x plus 3 as x approaches infinity. Recall that adding 3 to the input only translates the graph 3 units to the left, so the function is still oscillating, which means it does not converge on any value. Therefore, the limit does not exist. Next, let's look at the limit of e to the x plus cosine x. One way to evaluate limits like this is to think about what happens to each term as x gets extremely large. We know that cosine oscillates between -1 and 1, so it will never be smaller than -1 or larger than 1. On the other hand, e to the x is an exponential expression that continues to grow without bound. So one term is staying around the same number, while the other term is getting incredibly large. As x gets very large, cosine x will barely affect the overall expression. Therefore, as x approaches infinity, the value of the expression approaches infinity. Finally, let's look at the limit of cosine x over x as x approaches infinity. Like sine x, cosine x oscillates between -1 and 1, no matter how large x gets. And as x gets very large, the denominator of the expression will become very large. A fraction with a relatively small numerator and extremely large denominator approaches 0. Therefore, the limit is equal to 0.